Hello everybody, Jediwarlock here and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we are returning to the world of Warcraft to take a look at a recent adventure of mine that turned out to be even more fun than I was anticipating. I have finally started questing in Wrath of the Lich King on my Blood Elf Priest, marking the first time I have explored this content on the Horde faction. Heading out on a Zeppelin from Tirisfal Glades, I soon arrived at Vengeance Landing, the Forsaken base camp here in Northrend. Over the next hour, I fully quested through this area at the base of the massive fjord, and in this video, I want to break down what exactly makes this starting experience so awesome. I'll be taking a look at Vengeance Landing from a story and quest perspective first, then shifting to the world design of the coast, and discussing how the story plays into the landscape here. Even though this is a Horde quest line, I think Alliance players will also find this video interesting, since a major part of the story here revolves around the faction conflict. So, with all that being said, let's get right into it and explore the world of Azeroth. Right after stepping off the Zeppelin, the first quest you encounter is from a member of the Royal Apothecary Society, who asks you to retrieve containers of a new plague that were lost in delivery from the Undercity. While this quest is rather minor, the premise is great for two reasons. First, it establishes that the Forsaken have succeeded in making the plague they've been working on for so long, one that is deadly against both the living and the Scourge. If you've played Wrath of the Lich King before, this quest dialogue is a bit chilling, considering this is the same disease that is used later by a group of rogue Forsaken to infect the Alliance and Horde during the Battle of the Wrathgate. The story here already hints at the scheme being put into action. Second, this quest sets up the Alliance versus Horde conflict that is central to this starting experience. There are two follow-ups to this quest, the second of which involves you testing out the plague, which I'll discuss more about in a minute. Before we get to the main quest line, I wanted to touch on the Plague Hound tracking quests. While running around outside of Vengeance Landing, you are responsible for feeding one of the trained Plague Hounds who are going to serve as trackers within the Forsaken army. The Plague Hound eventually leads you to a hidden cave that contains a war map, showing the Wrathgate plan on moving against the Forsaken, which sets up the breadcrumb quest leading away from Vengeance Landing once the battle here is all said and done. Even though this small quest isn't related to the main conflict, it does a good job of teasing the Wrathgate's presence within the Howling Fjord, and lets the player know that there is much more to be done once they ascend the cliffs. Back to the main story, High Executor Anselm is in charge of managing the war effort here. The Stormwind North Fleet attacked the Forsaken ships en route to Northrend, and after an intense naval battle, the remnants of the Alliance are now washed up on the southern shore. The bulk of the quests here involve your character assisting in the battle by collecting field reports, reclaiming the Forsaken ships that have been boarded, and leading an offensive into the ramshackle Alliance holdfast. The final component of this push is to take out the three leaders still in command of the survivors, once decorated members of the Alliance Navy, now just waiting for the end on a burning beach. For the Alliance players watching this might seem a little disheartening, and while it is, we haven't even gotten to the hardest hitting story beats yet. After dealing with the lieutenant, you discover that a Forsaken apothecary has been captured in the initial battle and was being held hostage by the sailors. With the Alliance forces on the derelict strand almost entirely destroyed at this point, the final quest involves you walking him out of the wreckage to safety with little to no resistance. Thinking back to our knowledge of the new plague, this makes you wonder if the Alliance had prevailed and taken this prisoner back for questioning. Maybe the plot to betray both factions could have been revealed before it was too late. While this is the end of the Vengeance Landing quest line, The true nail in the coffin came much earlier in the battle. Remember the third plague quest I mentioned? Well, to test out the plague, the apothecary sends you out on a bat into the frozen sea, where an approaching fleet of Alliance reinforcements is sailing to the aid of their kin. Without intervention, this fleet could surely rescue the survivors stranded on the beach. Unluckily for them, however, you and your allies relentlessly bomb the ships with plague, putting a stop to the reinforcements before they can even arrive. The Alliance is snuffed out in the Eastern Fjord, and now the Forsaken can focus on the Vrykul and Scourge threats, all while the hidden agents are able to further their own plot. As if this tragic story couldn't be made any more perfect, the landscape and world design of the area really reflect the situation your player and the other characters find themselves in. The overall design is simple yet effective, with Vengeance Landing in the north, the Alliance wreckage in the south, and the battlefield in between, denoting where the action is at. I really like how many NPCs are involved in the fighting here. Contrary to a lot of other quest locations, this is one of the few in all of WoW Classic that truly demonstrates a battle in progress, with the sailors and the Forsaken troops respawning regularly to ensure you as the player can be involved. Some of my favorite details are the actual materials used in creating the makeshift wall for the Alliance, with wooden crates, shelves, and even lifeboats being thrown on, likely items salvaged from the boat wreckage itself. The impact sites and smoky haze also contribute to the feel of this battle, and make it seem more real by having portions of the wall and buildings on fire. The final point I wanted to discuss here is the use of something I'd like to call dynamic framing. In the Vengeance Landing area, there isn't any phasing present, meaning there aren't any changes to the NPCs or objects in the zone throughout the quest line. Dynamic framing, in my opinion, is a great way of progressing through a zone without needing to rely on phasing technology. The best example of this in the area are the reinforcement ships located off the southern coast. Before reaching the plague testing quest, the ships are still there, but the way they are located prevents us from really knowing they exist. When we do reach that part of the quest, with it being revealed the ships are coming, we are sent out to that destination and discover them for the first time. This doesn't break the immersion of the quest experience, and in my opinion, works just as well as if the ships had appeared nearby after finishing the previous quest. I'm sure there are plenty of other examples of this type of quest design, but I wanted to reference this one specifically since the setting is an active battle scenario. With the recent release of Wrath of the Lich King Classic, I'm sure many of you have gone through, or plan to go through, Howling Fjord on your way to Icecrown and beyond. So next time you're leveling an alt here, or just going back here for the Lore Master achievement, I invite you to take a moment and think about what's going on here, and how your actions affect both factions and their progress in the story. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment down below with your thoughts, subscribe if you're new to join the Jedi Order, and until next time, may the Force be with you.